As usual, I'm out traveling, and oh yeah, I'm keeping track of things. I know I haven't been doing many video uploads of any kind, live stream or recordings. Frankly, I've been very disgusted, actually, and there are a lot of other people that I just figured could handle it. Of course, my input is not always, of course, going to yeah, is not always going to make any big difference. And frankly, the only reason why I do this is not because I think I'm going to influence anybody or make any changes uh, in the minds of people from those who aren't even at the level of the subscribers here on this channel or the followers on Twitter, from them to the regular population, and of course, certainly not to the politicians and the policymakers. Yeah, thank you. I'm not here to make friends. I've never looked at it that way, to make friends. You're right. I don't know what the sound is like here, and I could lose the signal, of course. I'm in not a really remote area, but remote enough, and I notice the signal wavers quite a bit. So let me just get to it. I don't know how you feel about it, but this whole thing with pushing therapeutics and drugs, the vaccines, all of it is absolute nonsense, and I know you already know that. Well, of course, President Trump came out immediately after he was released, almost immediately after he was released from Walter Reed, and he started pushing regeneron, which now I think it's spread around. Most of you already know. I've been tweeting about it like crazy, like a lot of other people have. It's not just that it's made from human embryo stem cells, whatever, but also they humanize mice. And I got into a little bit of a tiff with a guy who was saying that because I called it a chimera, I was a Looney Tune. No, that's a scientific name for it. It is a chimera. It's a mixture of different species DNA. It's exactly what it is, and it's in the Regeneron. Can you imagine putting mouse DNA into you, along with fetal tissue, fetal matter, on top of the nanotech and whatever else they're going to give you. And of course, there are people that are supporting President Trump in this because this is a milder soup than the one that Gates is putting out, which is hogwash BS. It's just another way to get people to go along with it. So I called Trump out and I said, this is a blasphemy. You're going to put human fetal tissue in it, which I think a lot of us have been getting it unbeknownst to ourselves. I think that's happened. The thing with Pepsi a few years ago kind of showed that. But knowingly or trying to hide it from us, or for those who do know, and then on top of it, a rodent. A rodent. You're going to put rodent material into your body. Thanks, Trump. Thanks a hell of a lot. If there's another name for blasphemy and then saying that it's a gift from God on top of it, that is a real blasphemy, and he's committed a big one. And he didn't even use God's real name. He used the name God, which isn't his name, but in other words, he's trying to push it out as it's a blessing from God. God doesn't work like that. So, I'm very strict on how I define blasphemy, because blasphemy requires that you know the truth and then you lie about it, basically, is what it is. And that's exactly what Trump is doing. So he is committing a blasphemy. Now, the other subject that came up that I promised people I was going to look for is the look on Trump's face. His right eye was kind of shut, swollen. He had a large knot on his cheekbone. And it was very obvious to me when I first saw this that it had makeup over it to cover it up. And I had some suspicions. We've seen this before in other people. The eye thing that they do. They cover up one eye and they do the all-seeing eye business of the Illuminati. And a lot of people think that people like Soros and these other people sit down there and sit in a chair and somebody comes up with a fist and smacks him in the head. That never made any sense to me. I don't think that's what's going on. Now, I've reached out to some medical people to look at this picture of Trump. I looked at the video when he was talking about regeneron, and I made sure I got an original part of the video so that it wasn't messed up from somebody that sent it to me, photoshopped or anything. And I blew it up and I went, yep, it sure is. He's got something's going on here. The right side of his face is swollen and it's disfigured. So I sent it to a couple of medical professionals, and I was hoping they'd get back to me before today. They have not. Now, I don't know if it's because of what they know about this troubles them, and they're not sure they want to be official about it, which I wouldn't reveal who it was anyway, or who it will be that tells me, but I don't know. I don't know if that's it, or if it's just that they haven't had time. I'm really not sure. I can't get a hold of them, but I want to tell you what I think about it, okay? Nobody's going to sit in a chair, especially these elites, and have somebody pop them in the face. That's not how it works. I think what's happening here, it's a speculation, but I've got enough medical background that I think I can make a pretty accurate guess that they're having something implanted in the rear of their occipital lobes. I don't know how it's done. I don't know if they remove the eyeball and put it in there. I don't know if they inject it through the side. I would suspect that's how it's done. But I think they're having something placed in the back of their occipital lobes, behind their eyeball, next to their optic nerve, right next to the cerebral cortex, the cerebrum rather. And I think they're getting tied into the AI computers. I think that's what they're doing. And then they all have their little parts to play. Now, this isn't a lot of people, but apparently it's enough to make a difference. And I'm just speculating at this point. But Trump going into Walter Reed, the whole situation with Sukkot, and what's going on with the Mashiach situation in Israel, it all just makes a lot of sense. Speculation? Maybe. But I think it's an educated guess, at least on my part. Okay? And yes, I do believe that the beast system that comes out of the sea is the one tied to the AI in some way. All right? And one of its heads is wounded. Wounded meaning it has a plague, because that's the word, and I've talked about that. Well, Trump goes into Walter Reed on Sukkot and has a wound that he gets healed from. It all matches up, and it's a plague. It talks about it. And at the same time, they're talking about the Mashiach in Israel. And I've talked about this a little on my channel. I'm not going to get into detail on it today. They don't need a stone temple. They could use the same kind of temple, a tabernacle, that Moses used back when they left Egypt. That's all they need. As a matter of fact, that's preferable in a lot of ways. Plus, they can maneuver it around. It could be anywhere on or beneath that Temple Mount, or anywhere else, but probably around the Temple Mount. But along with all of that, and the rabbis saying that they found him, and now I see that Steve Ben-Nun of Israeli Live News is saying that they're talking about that it's some former army officer, commander, that they're thinking is the Mashiach. That doesn't fit. I'm sorry, it doesn't fit. I can't see that, because the type of situation that this person will have has to be quite a bit different than that. But be that as it may, the next thing I want to bring up again is this thing about the eye. I think Trump may have gone ahead and had himself connected up to the AI. If he wasn't before, they've done something more major in that regard this time. That's my take. Yes, admittedly it's speculation, but that's with all of the basic information that I can pull together. But the bottom line is him saying that this was a gift from God using human fetal tissue and mouse tissue. And he's not explaining that to anybody. So I'm just saying, I'm not getting any of this crap. They're going to have to kill me first, because I'm not taking it. I've talked to my family about it. I don't know what their decisions are going to be, but I'm not doing it. Okay? Bottom line, end of story. I don't wear a mask. I've been all over the place. People wearing masks everywhere. I don't wear them. If I get kicked out, I get kicked out. But I don't wear them. I refuse. Okay, that's the first part, the mouse thing, a gift from God. The second part, the nanotech. I kind of mentioned it already. That's the tracking mechanism for the 5G and for the identification, for the cryptic currency and all of that. So that's another aspect of this that Trump isn't telling you about. I'm really upset that we have these types of people, and it's so many that leading us, being our so-called, you know, politicians and whatever, and all of these people just falling in line. I heard Legal Man the other day, and I can barely contain myself listening to him because he's absolutely right. He thinks he's cussing a lot. You ought to hear me. You ought to hear me. Now, the last thing I want to cover right now and let you go. We all knew that Bill Barr wasn't going to do anything. We all knew that Durham wasn't really going to do anything, getting some low-hanging fruit. And that's pretty well come out today. Actually, it was, I guess, yesterday. They're not going to do anything until after the election. You know, that's a travesty of justice, because that means they're going to allow an accused criminal, a possible accused criminal, real one, run for president. And then, of course, if he gets in, Biden I'm talking about, if he gets in, then nobody will touch him. So Barr's not doing anybody a favor. He's a cover-up guy, just like I've said all along. Right? Just like I've said all along. So, here we are. Barr's deep state. He was there, just like I said, to put this thing up, to kick it down the road. That was the whole idea. After the election, what good is it going to do? It won't do any good, because then the Democrats will, unless Trump wins, and of course, my take on it at this point is that he has been selected. He has done everything the New World Order and the Luciferians have wanted him to do. He has drawn in the Christians and the conservatives into thinking that he's on their side. And so he's gently led them down to hell. Look what they do. They practically worship him. It's a cult. Even those who aren't in a real cult still look at him as, you know, the only option. Even people with relative intelligence say that. So I think he's a shoo-in. And if Revelation is correct, the head of the beast that gets the deadly wound from which it's healed, in other words, gets the plague and is healed from it, and then causes pushes this thing, and then apparently there's another part of that pushes the mark even more. But the point is that beast that received that wound reigns another 42 months. And the dragon gives him power to rule for 42 months. That's, in case you hadn't added that up, that's 3.5 years. That's from the time he's healed, I think. I don't think it's from the time of the inauguration in January. I think it's from the point that he's healed. There's something there, because there's another thing that I put out the other day that I'd like to give the source, but I can't, because I agreed not to. It's open source information, but I'm guarding the person that gave it to me. There's something that China has agreed to do for Trump. I know that sounds ludicrous, especially with the fact that Barr won't go after Biden's on this whole thing on the Chinese deal, although that's not closed up yet. But the money transfer, the whole deal with that, and also, of course, the Spygate portion of it. Barr's holding back on all of that, but there's something else sitting in the background that's even more devastating than any of that, in my estimation. And apparently China's given that information to Trump, according to the information I have. Why would they do that? Well, think about it. If China is really the the baby of the New World Order, that's what they want the whole world to be, then Trump's entire stand against China has been another part of the drama, of the theatrics. Right? Taking out the Bidens, no big deal, especially if Barr's not going to prosecute them. But the optics of all of this, the optics of the Bidens being, and Obama, of course, but I'm concentrating on Biden, being involved in the Spygate, getting the like $1 billion or whatever it is from China, and then this other thing that's about ready to come out. I'm not saying that they'll use it, but the optics of it will be devastating, as it already has been. Okay? So I wanted to talk about those three things. I'm not sure when I'll be back up again. Believe it or not, I'm trying to de-stress, de-escalate my position, because I am as angry as hell. And I shouldn't be. Because all of this we know has to happen, but that doesn't mean that we shouldn't stand up against it. Right? But you don't involve yourself in rebellion. Revolt, that's another whole thing. If you don't know the difference, it's almost a hair-splitting difference, but there's a difference. We need to stand against this and state so, but we also need, as I pointed out the other day with Richard Grannon's little thing about meditation. I know there are things about meditation that people don't like, but whatever you want to call it, prayer, meditation, getting away from all of the information and going into that kingdom of heaven within yourself and listening to that. Don't try, he made a good point if you watch that. You don't try to empty your mind. That's advanced kind of thing. You let thoughts come and you go, and you observe. You try not to react to those thoughts. You just observe to what comes through. Just do that. In other words, you can pray if you want. Prayer is a form of meditation. But we do, and that's what I'm trying to do right now. We have to back off a little bit so that we can hear the still, small voice, because that is the one that counts. All right, I'll let you go. I might come back up. I'm not sure. I'm visiting friends and some family. We're in a really pretty cool place and having a good time, and I don't want them to think that I'm ignoring them. Okay. All right. Be watching Legal Man on Twitter if you have it. Of course, Nancy Morgan Hart, Headlines with a Voice, on Twitter and on YouTube. And there are some others, but I'd almost think that right now I'd concentrate on those two, because I think they're hitting the nail on the head more than just about anybody else. Certainly nobody in the MSM. Poor Dan Bongino, he had that cancer they removed from his neck, and I'm glad they did. Bless Dan and his family. That's a rough thing to see and go through. But how I feel about Dan Bongino. He's not doing us any favor by covering for Trump. Same like with Alex Jones. I mean, you can blame Barr and the deep state and all that you want, but there are other tools that the president has at his disposal, and he either doesn't know about it or he's refusing to use them. And I think it's the latter, because I think he's all part of this takedown of the world, destruction, which in my estimation, some of this needs to be destroyed. There's no doubt about it. But it's why they're doing it and how they're doing it that's the problem. All right? Okay. I'm going to go ahead and go. You all take care, all right? Have a great day. Is Trump the Antichrist? I've already made my statement to that. I don't think he's this Mashiach ben Yosef. I don't think that's the case. So frankly, if you read my book, The Crimson Thread, I think that person was alive 2,000 years ago and was crucified by Pilate. The Jews could identify somebody as a Mashiach ben Joseph. That doesn't make it so. Okay? But as far as being an Antichrist character, if not the actual one, and all of the signs point to it that he is, and I guess I could get into that on a live stream or a recording, video recording one day about why I think that it's so strong to show it's him. But I think just stating it the way I have is probably enough. Yeah, at the time of Nero, of course, Sarah, they thought it was Nero. But you see, there are other things that have coalesced now that didn't exist then. Things that have come together that didn't exist in Nero's time that point to it. Okay, so there are a lot of things here that are a lot that point to the fact that this is the time. And I wrote a few people the other day, and I said, with Trump going through what he went through with the mark of with the plague, with the wound with the deadly wound, the deadly plague that then he overcame. I had somebody argue with me and said, well, he wasn't dead because he'd have to die. No, when a police officer uses deadly force against somebody, it doesn't necessarily mean they're going to die. It means that they could. And then Revelations goes on and says that he does survive it. He does survive the deadly wound. So it's an act of war, either real or a deception. It doesn't matter. It still falls in the category. So in my estimation, yes, I think that Trump has all of the characteristics of the Antichrist at this point. And, that sounds nuts, I know. But, it's almost safer to believe that than to think he's sent from God to save you. Because that's what the Antichrist wants you to think, that he's being sent to save you. Right? But coming out like he did, and then calling this drug, this pharmakia, which we're commanded not to have anything to do with because it's sorcery, to say that it's a blessing from God and we know it's made out of baby parts and mice? Wow. Talk about a blasphemy. Somebody asked me if that's an abomination of desolation. Well, it's a form of it, yes, there's no doubt about that. I'm not certain that it's the one that Daniel talks about. Okay, I'm not certain of that. Where he says, when you see the abomination of desolation, stand ye in the holy place. I'm not certain that that's what it is. It could be. It could be all related. Regardless, we are to use our spiritual insights to make the very best judgment calls that we can. And in my estimation, everything that Trump is at right now is dangerous. He's proving that he is not for us and that he has an entire system that is using deception. I don't care what Pelosi's saying. I don't care what Schumer's saying. I don't care what Biden's saying. As a matter of fact, here I'm continuing to go. The FBI goes out there and they harass everybody else. You notice they haven't arrested one of their own people yet. Kleinsmith doesn't count. Sorry. They don't do anything about their own people in the deep state and in the IC. Nothing. Who have committed gross crimes. They're not going after Whitmer for violating people's rights, which they could. The DOJ definitely could. They're not doing any of that. Why did they go after Trump so hard? Or was that part of the ploy, part of the drama, part of the theatrics, to do, as I have said, to make Trump look the victim as the marred servant in Isaiah 52, so that he could become the Savior? This is the most grandiose deception that has ever been played out on humanity, even more so than what happened in the Garden of Eden. Much more so. Much more so than Rome ever did. And we're told that in these days, God would send them strong delusion that they believe a lie. So here we are. Yeah, I like that. Two separate sects of Luciferianism that are fighting with each other. That's a good way to put it, because of course they would, right? I mean, all you got to do is look La Cosa Nostra, right? The Italian mafia that J. Edgar Hoover said didn't exist. Then we find out it did. I wonder why he said it didn't. He knew it did. Yeah, it's all the same. The wicked will destroy the wicked. Defend yourself, but try not to get involved in this fight other than to defend yourself. Don't go out there and try to defend Trump like Bongino and these guys are doing, because I don't think that's right. Not after all the lies and he always has an excuse. He's always blaming his inaction on somebody else. Very convenient. And the sleights of hand, like funding Planned Parenthood when he said he wasn't going to. And I don't want to get into arguments saying, well, he didn't fund abortion. He did in a roundabout way. Yes, he did. And he funded who in a roundabout way? By giving the money to Gavi, which is to Gates. It's all sleight of hand. It's all Luciferian. It's all lies and deception. God doesn't lie. He doesn't deceive. And by their fruits you shall know them. Yeah, I don't know where Melania is. I don't know where Barron is. I don't know what's happening up there. You know, Melania is a difficult subject for me. I'm not sure. I don't know if she's really on board with all of this. You know, she, as I pointed out when it happened back during the, it was either during the campaign in 2016, or it was after he was inaugurated and was traveling around doing his other rallies. I'm not sure which it was. But remember, she came up and she gave the Lord's Prayer, and Trump was a little bit put out by that. He even said, I didn't know she was going to do that. I think he said that because he was covering for himself to his handlers, to whoever these people are that are controlling him, or that think they control him. I don't think he's actually controlled by anybody but Lucifer at this point, or those associated with him. And you know, I know Lucifer's not the real name. Yeah, Satan is the great, two things Satan is. He's the great imitator, and he's the accuser of the brethren. Right? Okay. All right, I'd love to stay on, but you know I have a hard time reading the chat in the bright daylight. My screen's not real bright, but I wanted to come on and explain some of that. So, again, on Trump's eye, nobody punched him. Nobody punched Podesta or Schumer or any of these people. I think they're getting some type of an implant, whether in the right eye or the left eye, in the rear of their occipital lobe, next to the cerebrum and the optic nerve. That's what I think's going on. The swelling and the situation that you see there would be, it would pretty much corroborate that something like that is going on. What exactly it is, I don't know, but it's something like that. All right. Yeah, and it would make you look different. Yeah, for a little bit. And if it's tied into the AI, wow. Yeah, the devil is the author of confusion. And what have we seen since Trump's been in? And again, you can blame it on the people that are keeping him from doing his job. But boy, he brought most of them in, didn't he? Didn't he? Edema. No, I understand edema. Edema is swelling. I'm not talking just about the edema. I'm talking about the location of it and what that type of an invasive procedure would do. Okay? All right. I'll let you go. I'm out here for now, okay? I'd love to talk to you guys a little bit more, but I think you get the idea of where I'm coming from. All right? And going to, for that matter. All right? All right. Out here for now. We'll see you later. Yeah, but, okay, I got to address this. Jane, steroids will puff you up, but it's not going to be localized, right? You're going to get it in other places. This was almost entirely on his right side. And whether he gets it on the right side or the left side depends upon, get this, his rank. This is the eye of Ra. The right eye is the right eye of Ra. The left eye is the eye of Horus. It means something. All right? Okay, out here.